Well, harkening back to one of my points, our goal here today is really to talk about impact, and as both of you had alluded, impact comes through scaling, right? And scaling doesn't happen alone. Scaling happens when you're part of a team with a bigger vision. You bring those friends with extra horsepower to the table. You're all simultaneously focused on the people that have the need and how best to solve it. Both of you have had, again, back to the bookends, different experiences on how you've scaled your innovations and scaled them to maximize their impact. Mike, you've been involved in clinical trials and increasing that body of work at the university. Sam, you've been involved in some entrepreneurial startup type activities and so forth. Share with us some experiences from that scaling to impact piece of the puzzle.
That's the scariest part to me, because you're building an enterprise that requires a constant amount of funding, right? And you lose the funding, you lose your people, you just have to start all over again. So the first thing that we did was we convinced the chair, Bob Lust, that we needed a bank account, and he needed to allow us to take whatever residuals we had from our activity, and we needed to be able to save it. And he said, well, how much do you think you need? And I said, $500,000. And he said, you're kidding me. I said, no. I've got animals that cost, you know, $10, $15 a day to keep, and I've got 75 of them. And my whole program falls apart if I have to get rid of them. And so I need enough to keep those animals for 1 or 2 years if I go into hiatus, and I need to be able to keep my people. So he said, okay. And so we fought every year for that F&A account and to keep that. And then in 2007, 2008, you know, the economy fell, things started to slow down, and we burned through that money before the contracts came back. But we didn't lose. We didn't stop. So that's the scalability is hard, because you don't want to overbuild and not be able to support it. So you really do have to think, and that's in a state system, this is not what they think like, right? Because it's a year-to-year budget. And they want all that money to go away at the end of the year. And so that is the hard part in this system. Yeah. But you can do it.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that is scary. Our situation's a little different. Since I kept seeing the same problem over and over, patients encountering arrhythmias, getting high energy shocks, presenting with anxiety disorders and all kinds of other problems of life, if you will. So we got American Heart Association funding and tested the efficacy of an intervention. Teach patients about how to understand what's happening, teach them how to re-engage, tolerate their heart rate again, because that's associated with a concern that they might get shocked. So we could test that, and we did that in clinical trials and published that. But then I had this idea, right? There's about 1 million people with ICDs in the world, implantable defibrillators. There's 1 million people out there. I'm a professor sitting here with this intervention that could probably make a difference for a lot of people. How do I get it to all those people? There's not psychologists out there that I can go teach and train to do this. We're one of the few places in the world that has an integrated clinic. So I have this thing that works and 1 million people that need it. There's no other way to get there except industry. I mean, it's sort of like Jonas Salk having a vaccine. Well, they can't make those on the campus. So I had this thing we had to do. So that led us to ways in which we could scale it with industry. But the problem is, one challenge we had with industry was that only one company will come forward and say, we want to help you, we'll get you, but then you can't work with our competitors. Well, I don't do that either. So we could get the next sort of batch, if you will, of patients affected by the intervention, the strategies and things. We could do some with the company, but ultimately we had to innovate even bigger to do that, and that's where the mobile phone app came from, which allowed us then to offer what we do across all patients, regardless of manufacturer, and break the bonds of sort of exclusiveness. But it was simply, again, trying to do the right thing. To me, industry was just part of us trying to do the right thing. And you go, what? That's kind of naive or ideal. Yeah, I know. I'm a professor. That's what I do. right? I'm not a business person. That's not what I want to do. I want to solve problems that affect human beings. And so the app, it wasn't like we set out to do an app. I don't have any interest in apps. I don't even know how they work. I have a company that makes them. I don't even know what they are. I don't have anything. They solve a problem. They're a tool. That's what they are. And I hope you laugh at that, because part of what I want you to see in my communication about that is you stay committed to what matters. And the business stuff will come around you. There are people that have those skills. People like you, Ted, who could come to me and say, well, I need to understand the market, and I need to understand the market demographics and the potential for sales, and how do we scale this thing, and how much would it produce, and what are the legal costs, and all those things. Those aren't the things that I know about. Some days I'm pretty sure I don't know about it when I look at how some of the business is running. But the idea here is that we stay focused on the right stuff. And when you do that, you can walk away proud of what you've done. You made no sacrifices on what you care about. Instead, you make sacrifices on the right things, and you keep your soul intact. And to me, that's been fun. It's been fun to kind of say, hey, we're making a difference, and we didn't have to make compromises that somehow made us feel uncomfortable, or like we sold out. Rather, they bought in. And I think that feels different.